Hello, my pretty peas. I am back with another cooking video. Have you ever had a piece of meat in your fridge that you just did not know what to do with? Maybe it's not a very good cut of meat, or maybe the meal that you originally planned didn't pan out. That's what happened to me. So, when in doubt, make it into tacos. Am I right? Today, I am going to show you how I made these street tacos. Super simple recipe, but extremely flavorful, and I think that you guys will really enjoy it. The first thing that we're going to do is chop all of that meat up into small little slices, and then we're going to start making a marinade for them. I put some soy sauce into a bowl, and then I chop up some green onions. Whenever I am cooking, I think that the most important thing is to have a sharp knife to cook with. When you're cooking and you're cutting onions, it'll make it so that you don't cry as much. The sharper knife you have, you won't destroy some of your produce like tomatoes and stuff if you have a sharper knife. And you're less likely to cut yourself because you're not struggling so much to get that knife through and then finally jam it through and slice the edge of your finger off, which has happened to me. So take it from somebody who's been doing this for a little while. Invest in a sharp knife or go on Amazon and get a diamond sharpener. Either way, don't struggle with a dull knife. It's not worth it. So I will put those green onions in there. I'll put a little bit of lime juice in there. I wanted to do some orange juice, but I didn't have any fresh oranges. So I just grabbed one of my son's little cutie mandarin oranges, and it worked out, you know? I feel like every ingredient has an equal substitute, and the best way to kind of explore and make new meals is by creating substitutes for different ingredients that you don't have on hand. Don't be afraid to experiment when cooking. In this house, we season with our hearts. So I add a lot of cumin, some onion powder, some garlic powder, and some chili powder into this marinade. We want to not be shy about it because this is going to season all of our meat, and I really want it to be flavorful. So we're going to go pretty heavy on the seasonings here. You can also add salt and pepper to taste, but the soy sauce that I use is already pretty salty, and I didn't want to kind of over salt my meat. Salt it, if you will. We'll give that a good mix, and then we'll put all of our meat into a Ziploc bag. I forgot the cilantro. You cannot have good Mexican food without cilantro. So, and it's important to put that in there from the start too. So that's going to go into the marinade. If you are someone who enjoys heat, you can also add a little bit of cayenne pepper. I didn't because I have a toddler, so we'll want to chop that up into pretty fine pieces to release as much flavor as possible over the next couple of hours. And my favorite little sous chef will give that a good stir while I bag this meat. If I have any scraps or anything, like a lot of times I'll cut a lot of the fat off of my meat because I don't like eating very fatty meat, I will just put that in a bowl and set it to the side for my chickens for later. They love it. They go crazy for it. We'll squeeze as much of the air out of this bag as possible and kind of roll it so that when we seal it, we don't have any air kind of seeping back in. And then we are going to squish and smush as much as we can and move that marinade around the meat as much as possible. It was right about here that I figured out that I probably should have made a little more marinade, but it ended up being kind of perfect later on, and you'll see why. We'll roll that up and stick it in the fridge for later. And we're back. So I'll take that out of the fridge, and I am going to put some olive oil in a pan. Olive oil tends to be my go-to, or I like to use avocado oil, but you can use whatever oil you're comfortable with. It just seems to be what works for me. So I'll stick that into a pan and preheat it a little bit, move that around, and we will come back to it. But for right now, let's jump over here and light a candle and start cutting the toppings for our tacos. Try to get these little chunks as small as you can without chopping off your finger, and then chop up some fresh cilantro, obviously from your garden if you have it. And what are tacos without avocado? I mean, really, I was going to make a guacamole, but I got tired and lazy, and my kids were throwing a fit. You can see that I have quite a bit of juice here at the bottom of my pan, and that's because a lot of liquid was released from that meat because we had all of that marinade in there. And this is not fat, because you could see in the beginning of the video it was not a very fatty piece of meat. This is all flavor, and it is not something that I want to drain off. Instead, I just want to cook off some of that liquid, and I removed the meat from the pan so that I wouldn't just sit there and boil my meat. Then I added a little bit of tomato paste, and you can see how quickly that thickened up once we got that meat out of there and just let some of that moisture simmer off. Now we're left with a really delicious, flavorful type of gravy, I guess you could call it, but it's really not. It's just going to coat that meat really well. So we'll add that back into a pan. You can see how well that coated the meat, and everything is just so flavorful and delicious, and is not going to like drip out of your hand when you're eating your taco. I mean, there really is no graceful way to eat a taco, but it's better if you can avoid some of the best by not having super juicy. So my son is the only one that eats beans in my house. I am allergic, and my husband hates them. So I just got a little can of Amy's refried beans and used that, and he's the only one that's going to have any on his plate. And then I also made some cilantro lime rice. It's one of my favorite ways to eat rice, and I will show you guys how I make mine in another video. I am told that it is quite delicious, and I think so too. Put some sour cream on there, some of that delicious meat, some of our onions, some cilantro, and some avocado chunks. I like to make my street tacos and not make them too crazy or out of this world, but I always top it off with some fresh pico de gallo and enjoy it. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.